So something else I found in the archives was a tape of a rate of a Barry Farber show from 1968, which had a number of people, but the focus and of the program and the way it's presented here accurately is Stan debating Hilde Mosse, who was Fredric Wertham's, who wrote Seduction of the Innocent and was probably the most famous of the anti-comics crusaders of the 50s. She was his research partner and his colleague, and like him, she came to it from like a progressive, liberal point of view. That popular culture was, made people whatever. That was not good for you. Resulting in the great implosions of the 50s. This is 14 years later. If you look at the calendar, it's a week after Nixon was elected for the first time. And so it's Barry Farber on the left in a fairly recent picture, Stan in the 60s, Joan, his wife, who was also at the show with him. And the only picture of Hilde Mosse I could find as an adult. There's some pictures of her online, in Germany. Her family were German Jewish refugees.
German what?
German Jewish refugees. Their father had been in the publishing industry. And yet she has this kind of stereotypical German accent. So when Stan is debating her, of course, she's this very stuffy, impassioned, angry academic with a German accent, and Stan is just going, now listen, Doc. And so I transcribed that, and I tried to keep that flavor of it. And it's just fascinating, that even though it's 14 years later and Marvel Comics are riding high, it's interesting historically. They're both fascinating personalities, and there's even a moment here in which Stan corrects her pronunciation of Submariner, and she goes, "Oh, thank you." It's a very odd. So that's transcribed in the book. There's Fredric Wertham himself being shocked by one of the ABC comics. Actually, I don't know if that's one of the ABC comics that was less shocking. That was put out after the horror comics stopped coming out. During the interviews, they talked about Gershon Legman, who I think was kind of a machugner, but he was a well-known writer and philosopher and psychologist, and really kind of wacky. But apparently, Stan had been to a lecture where Legman made some to Stan outrageous allegations about comics, and so that's just the cover. That's an interesting choice of images for your cover of your book. That's Wertham being on a Mike Douglas show in the 60s, which is on a videotape, which is odd because I've come across women of Wertham's generation, or a little younger, who when you mention his name, you go, "Oh, Dr. Wertham." He apparently had some kind of charisma, but based on that, if you see that video, he's utterly utterly charmless. I never got it. They also, during the Barry Farber show, they talk about Estes Kefauver, who ran the Senate investigations, who ran unsuccessfully for president twice in that period. I guess invading against comics is not enough to elect him. Here's some cameos of Stan, or of a guy who's referred to as the editor of the comic that you're reading. Whether it's actually Stan, I think the one on the left, which is from a story called The Fanatic, about a guy who's obsessed with how evil and horrible comics are, coming up to the offices of Marvel Comics and confronting the editor, and then it turns out he's a escapee from a lunatic asylum, which is pretty funny when you consider that Wertham and Mosse were psychiatrists. And then that picture at the bottom is the editor or Stan or whoever rocking his daughter to sleep, telling her the story of the weird guy who came to visit him that day. These are a few years later. This is Lee and Kirby being kidnapped by Dr. Doom. Oh no, Reed Richards being kidnapped. Sorry, Lee and Kirby being used to lure Reed Richards. They're telling him to get down there quickly for a story conference. and then on the bottom is a Stan and Jack being kept out of Reed and Sue's wedding. Whenever Kirby would draw himself and Stan, until that what if, he'd never show their faces. I'm not sure what that was about. And the middle one is Carl Burgos, who created the Human Torch, did a story in the 60s with him and Stan. This was obviously before Stan had his various, Stan is the second, the taller one, before his different hair situations evolved. Here's Stan, Larry Lieber, and John Romita plotting a Spider-Man story. And on the bottom is Stan and Gene Colan plotting. You'll notice Gene has a portable tape recorder. And he actually did record those plot conferences, and I asked him once if he had those tapes, and he claimed not to, and I have not heard that his children have found anything since he's gone. But that would be a hell of a find if you find, because Gene's tapes of their conferences.